Many of us really only have enough space in our home for a studio in a bedroom. It's not uncommon, we've shown a couple bedroom studios here, but sometimes that bedroom is just not enough space. My friend Kathy Broughton is here with us today, and she's going to show us how she solved that problem. The only space in her house was a bedroom, and she outgrew it, and she has a business. So let's see how she handled that problem.
Hi there, I'm Kathy Broughton. Welcome to the Rock Lake Weaving Studio. Let's go for a tour. We're gonna start on this side. I've got lots of yarn. Down at the bottom here, this is all my education. I'm working through the OHS Master Weaver program. It's great reference materials. I go back and look at them all the time, so I keep everything where I can reach it easily. Over here, I've got some more luxury fibers, and in the corner, I've got stock. I've got towels, blankets, scarves, wraps, everything that I make, and all the fun stuff. And this is my little artist hat. I'm currently working on a scarf, which is a shawl scarf. And this one is tencel that I've hand dyed. So I'm really loving how the colors are playing together. And then moving on, this is my little office area. It's very tiny, so I love my folding trays that I move around to hold things. I've got sketchbooks, pattern books, I've got fiber works up here right now. It's just a great little spot to sit and plan my works for the year. This is my compact that is currently the treadmill of my studio, where everything's hanging on it. This is a skirt that I did for a juried show. I've got a bin for students and some things that I was just messing around with. So normally this isn't covered with things, but right now it is. Then I've got things that are special to me. This is a painting that my oldest daughter did for my birthday of me in my studio, so that's a really special thing to me. And then this sign was made for me by my parents. When I got the studio, my mom came up with it, my dad hand carved this out, and it's actually maple from my grandparents' maple tree, which is kind of special. So next up is the most important part, the caffeination station. So your coffee and snacks. I very often am here for 5 or 6 hours at a time, so it's great to have that available. Then of course more yarn, shock of all shocks. I've decided to use some wall space, so my working board's hanging. This is my Swift that generally is set up, but right now I need the space. And then I go, this is my loom. This is my favorite big loom. This is my AVL folding dobby loom. It does not have a dobby. So all of the mistakes I make are mine, but I'm okay with that. More yarn over here. I've got just a shelf. I've got some yarn and all the tools that I need. Right now I'm putting a warp on, so I've got my wrench and bolts that I'm using. I also have my linen tester, which I really love. I use it to check my picks per inch, and it's a super valuable tool that I use all the time. One of my favorite tools is my headphones. I listen to music, I listen to audiobooks, and I generally drown out the world with it, which is sometimes great. On this little shelf here, I have more tools. I have threading hooks, scissors, my perns. I've got weights here for when I need them, and just kind of all the little bits and pieces that I use when I'm dressing the loom. So then here, I've got just some drawers. They're sorted out. This is some samples for the double weave course that I'm working on. This was from the lace, and I've got another fabric one here that were samples that I had done previously. I've got projects in these drawers sorted out just to keep everything together. I love my rolling carts. They're so useful in a small space like this. So I've got all my tools here. I've got yarn for an upcoming project. I've got repair bits, paint, everything that I could need. I just roll it around everywhere I go. And yet another rolling station, shock of all shocks. I love this one because it's got quite a big leg that I can put up. For students when I'm teaching, they can use this for paperwork. I can put my laptop on it, gives me lots of space. And underneath, I've got room for all of my shuttles and bobbins and perns, which is a really great way just to keep everything tidy and together, but out of the way. And then here, I've got one of the favorite parts of my studio is my bookshelf. I've got all kinds of reference books. I'm always on the hunt for more books. I love old books. One of my favorites is down here. This came with one of my looms, and it's another weaver's sample book. So she's got notes from classes and samples, and I actually really love to page through this and find new things to weave, and I really love the connection of weaving something that someone else really loves to weave. In the magazine files, I've got magazines, I've got hand woven, I've got Vav, I've got fiber focus, I have all the random little bits and pieces to try and keep things together and organized. And then here's all my cottons, and I've got a couple of garbage cans because we're high end that way. And it's a great way to divide up all the sticks and reeds and things that we use all the time.
What made you decide to start weaving?
Knitting is a gateway craft. So years ago I was in Kingston and I was a knitter and I worked at a knitting shop, and through that I was given a spinning course. So I learned how to spin, and then my teacher said, hey, join the Spinners and Weavers Guild. And I went, I don't weave. And she went, oh yeah, you will. So then I went, and of course I saw all the cool things that the weavers were doing, and I took a class and I didn't really like it. I thought, nah, it's not for me. So I kind of left it, and it was good to know. And then a few years after that, I was cruising around on Kijiji and found a loom for like $50 and decided to start weaving again. And now it's my job.
So I was going to ask about that. So for you, weaving is not a hobby, although it is a hobby as well.
Yes, it's
You want to
both.
talk about that?
I do consider this my job. I keep timesheets. I have accounts. I keep track of all of those things.
Kathy, you mentioned a couple times students. Tell me about what that means.
So part of moving my studio out of my home is it means that I can have students. So I love the art of weaving. I love being able to think up a fabric and design it and have it come out close, if not exactly how I want it. And I really love sharing that with people. I love the idea of taking something old that people have done for centuries and continuing that. So the two little looms are often used for students. So I do learn to weave here. I also do class on requests. I have a class booked for someone to learn the basics of sectional warping because she's considering a sectional beam, so she wants to know what's involved in that. And I'm planning to expand my classes as my education expands.
So Kathy, we are looking at 3 looms in your studio space here. How many looms do you have altogether?
Well, I have quite a few. In my garage right now, I have 4 more floor looms that are waiting for a home. My original plan was to have a larger studio and have space that people could come and use HF looms if they didn't have them, or try different ones. Unfortunately, I live in Stratford, Ontario, and commercial space is very expensive. So right now I'm going with a smaller studio, and hopefully the bigger dream will come to be in later years.
So do you come down to your studio? I'm assuming your house is a little ways off, and do you come down every day? How often do you find yourself in the studio, or is it seasonal?
In the summer, I'm mostly up at my cottage, but I do come back for a week or so every couple of weeks. And during the winter time, I'm mostly here Monday to Friday. Sometimes the schedule switches up depending on what my family schedule is, but I'm generally here weaving for 4 to 6 hours a day.
You have several looms, and you've obviously used other looms. What's your favorite loom and why?
I think right now, for most weaving, my favorite loom is my AVL. I really love the way that it works. I've got the side tie up here that is not tied up right now. I love how the loom fits me. I'm a fairly tall person, and I'm very comfortable with this loom. I find it easy to use, easy to warp. I just really love it.
If you could have one more piece of equipment, what would that be?
Probably an assistant.
An assistant?
Was a person count as equipment? I do go out my children once in a while, and I do pay them to come in and do the things that I don't really want to do. I think if I could do one more thing and budget wasn't in consideration, I'd probably get more shafts. I've always been a little hesitant about Dobby looms. I like making my own mistakes. I don't know why, and I make a lot of them, so maybe it's not a good thing. I would really love to start experimenting with larger looms. This loom has currently 10 shafts, which I really enjoy. It allows me, I usually use 2 shafts for selvages, but I would really like to do some more complex things, and I just can't do it on this loom.
It looks to me, if I look carefully, that you have more. Do you have room to grow on this loom?
I do. I could convert this. I could put up to 16 shafts on this loom. It's set up for that. The thing that's holding me back right now is that if I go to 16 shafts, I need to convert it to a Dobby loom.
Gotcha.
And that's into the several thousands of dollars to do, which is a little bit out of my budget right now. I also prefer to have the treadling options, and I haven't played with a Dobby quite so often, so it's one more thing to learn, and I'm having a good time learning all the weaving things versus the technicalities of a Dobby loom.
So Kathy, I understand that you have your own YouTube channel as well. Can you tell us the name of your channel, how we can find you?
I do. It is under Rock Lake Weaving just on YouTube, and I'm sure Rebecca will put a link on the description.
I certainly will.
So most of it, my focus on that is tips and tricks. I'm not doing full classes on that. I'm just doing little things. So I've got one about tying on. I've got one about how I move all my sections from the back of the loom to the front for easier threading. The little things that I've learned because I weave so often. I also, as a consequence, have made a lot of mistakes. So it's nice that when I've learned from those mistakes 5 or 6 times after I do them, because why not repeat them to make sure it's a mistake, then I know a little better, and I really love to share those tips to make other weavers' lives easier.
So as a weaver, you talked about starting off knitting. I know that most of us tend to have other fiber art hobbies or even just other art hobbies. Do you fall into that category other than the knitting?
Yes, as most of us do. So obviously weaving, I do quite a bit of knitting. Haven't quite ventured into crochet. That's not my forte at this point. I do spin a little bit. It's not my favorite thing to do. I don't default to that, but I do it fairly often because I like the look of hand spun yarn, and I like playing with the colors and the fibers. I've done a little bit of felting, some needle felting, some tapestry. I have a lot of weaving variations. So an inkle loom, I do beading, all the things with strings basically.
So your studio is just perfect, I think. How big is it in here?
It's 240 square feet, which is nice because it's about double what my studio was when I was in my home. And it's allowed me to add the 3rd loom. And there's enough space, a couple of students can move around. I can roll around my carts. We can sit with paperwork. I find it a really nice space for a small studio. If I was gonna have more looms, I'd need more space, but that's not what I have, so I'm gonna work with what I have for now. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. I'm going to link the information to get to Kathy's website and her YouTube channel in the description below, but I'm also going to have one of her videos posted right here. And if you liked this video, I have more studio tours over here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you over there. Bye.